before you write down another prayer request on a random piece of paper only to be lost in your purse, in your house, in your bag. I'm going to show you one simple thing that will instantly level up your prayer life, and it fits right in your hand. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build a mobile prayer list that syncs perfectly with your prayer Bible, keeps you consistent, and makes praying even easier. If you've been wanting deeper, more organized prayer time, this might be the video you've been waiting for, so let's get started. Why a mobile prayer list, you ask? Well, I like to organize things in my planner and my Bible, and I like to find ways that make it easier for me to organize them. And so I don't know if this is a new idea. I've not seen it on YouTube or anything, but this is something I've come up to use with my Bible called the mobile prayer list. And a couple people have asked how I've made it. So I'm going to do a short little video on how I make it. But basically the gist of it is having some sort of mobile prayer list and organized of prayers that you can move around and put in your prayer Bible, or move around to different Bibles or different prayer Bibles. The idea of it is to pray for these people or groups or whoever you are praying for, and going through your prayer Bible using the themes that match up with the prayers that these people need. And so it makes it easier to remember them. And if you haven't seen my recent video on 10 tips to organize your prayer Bible, that's a must-see. So go over and see that. I'll put a card up in the corner. But one of my tips was to laminate and make bookmarks. And I made a bookmark out of scrapbook paper, and this was my prayer schedule. So you can use any sort of prayer schedule you like if this helps you organize. But for me, there were areas in my life I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget. So briefly, I'll go over what I have chosen. On Monday, I've chosen to pray over my marriage and spouse. On Tuesdays, my kids. Wednesday, my extended family and family business. Thursday are my friends. Friday are my ministries that I serve. Saturdays are church and government leaders. And then Sunday, I pray over myself. Sometimes we forget ourselves, so I took Sunday as for myself. So what I've done is I use a wet erase. Now, I say wet erase, not dry erase. So if you were probably in high school in the 90s, you remember the projectors in class, and the teachers would use these Expo Vis-a-Vis wet erase, and they would lick their fingers whenever they make a mistake, and they'd wipe out their mistakes. So I love these because if you use dry erase, you know that dry erase just wipes right off. Well, these wet erase are amazing because they don't wipe right off. All you have to do is take a paper towel or something, wet it, and it wipes right off. Or lick your thumb and wipe it off like those high school teachers did. But I will use this so that way if I want to change it, it's laminated, but I can still change it and erase it if I want to change up my prayer schedule. So what I've done is organize them by these days. And in my mobile prayer list, that's how I have it organized. I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's organized and ready to go. Supplies. Well, we do need a Bible, so some sort of Bible, or maybe you want to leave it in your prayer journal if you use a prayer journal. I personally don't yet, doesn't mean I won't, but I have my compact NLT rose gold Bible here, and you can get your regular study Bible, any Bible that you use, because the beauty of this project is that it is mobile. You can move it around to wherever you like. You can keep it in your purse, you can keep it in your fanny pack, so that it's ready to go with you. So you need a Bible. You will need a laminator. My laminator is just one I got from Costco, the Purple Cows brand. Doesn't really matter. Maybe you have one collecting dust. Mine was collecting dust in a drawer. The other thing you will need is something to cut with, scissors or a paper cutter. If your paper cutter doesn't have a ruler, some sort of ruler to measure. You will need some form of writing utensils, either pens, markers. I'm going to use a Mr. Pen fatty pencil today. And you will need some form of wet erase marker. This is optional if you don't want to have a prayer schedule. But I will link all these items below. You will need some form of Post-its or sticky notes. These are just the regular Post-its. You can use the clear translucent ones. Those work, but I'll show you why they're not my favorite for this project. You'll need some laminating sheets. Probably 1 or 2 sheets is all you'll need. Some form of scrapbook paper. And the special piece I'm going to add in is the adhesive vinyl pockets, and I will link these below, but I absolutely love these. I use them in my Hobonichi planner, and I use them in my Bible. If you haven't checked out my pocket full of answered prayers, you'll see that in my 10 tips to organizing your prayer Bible. So first tip, we need to measure how big we want this mobile prayer list to be. And I have already inserted a laminated dashboard, but I'm going to be using this for something else in this prayer Bible. But what we want to do is figure out how big or small we want this to be. So I know I want it to be this size. So I'm going to measure it. And for me, right into that spine, that's just over 4.5 inches. I'm going to say 4.5 inches. And this one is it's actually 7 inches, exactly 7 inches. So what I want to do is if you want it the exact size of your Bible page, I would make it a smidge bigger, either like 1 millimeter or 2 bigger than what it actually is, and I'll show you why. But mine is actually flush with my Bible pages. But because this is going to be my mobile prayer list, I'm going to actually make it smaller than this page. So I said 4.5 by 7, and I'm going to cut that right now into that size so that will be ready. So as I cut this, I want to cut off some of this excess here. Pretty sure I have at least 4.5 inches here. Yeah, so I have 6 inches there. I could cut off a little bit over here. And depending on what your paper looks like, make sure you have the colors that you want. Okay. So I would be using my ruler on my paper cutter, but all of the numbers have worn off with all the use that I have, so I'm going to be using my ruler here, which I want it to go right along here, just 7 inches. Okay. And we need 4.5. So 4.5, okay. I'm gonna go just over 4.5. Oops, it would help if I move the ruler, wouldn't it? So as we're doing this, like I said, I'm doing it a smidge bigger than what I need. And so I measured just over 4.5 and measured, well, this is 7, but I know that that's going to be bigger than what I need. So what we're going to do is we're going to take as many as you want. So let's say for your mobile prayer list, you want to have maybe 1 page per day, or you have your number of prayer groups or people you want to pray over. I chose to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I have 3 pages laminated. So however many pages you want to put together in your prayer list, that's how many you're going to pick out or cut out of these pages. The next step we're going to do is we're going to laminate. And because I don't like to waste lamination paper, I would probably fit as many pieces in here as I could. I know that I could fit for sure at least 2 pages. What I would do with the rest of my lamination sheet here is I would actually like make a bookmark and just cut it out of some other scrapbook paper and use that lamination up. Even if I don't use this bookmark, I could give it away, hole punch it, put the ribbon in it, and give it away. But then at least I'm not wasting the lamination paper, especially if you're like me and you have lots of scrapbook paper hanging around. You can even make some like coordinating bookmarks so you could fit one right in there. That would probably be a good idea too. So then I would just use my laminator, put it through, and then what you want to do is once it's all laminated, you're going to actually cut this out I recommend not leaving these edges like this. You see how it's got this little gap here on the edge? What I like to do is I like to cut the lamination off just inside. This is why we need that extra space. I would cut just inside so that you get a good clean edge. And by that I mean you don't see any excess plastic, and these are melted on the edge, so you don't have to worry about having an extra plastic on the edge. I actually think those come undone faster than these clean edges because there's like an air gap in there. So I cut them clean off so that there's no excess plastic hanging over the edge. Next, and this is totally optional, but I will link this cool little corner cutter in the links below. But I have a corner cutter. You do have to be careful with it. If you want it to match your Bible pages, this rounded edge, what I did is I went through and practiced with each one of these, and they're just kind of like how wide that circle is on the edge of their page. So I know for my Bible it's going to be this R4 millimeters. And so what I want to do is I'm going to round the pages out. Actually, the only pages you really need to round out are the outer edges of your mobile prayer list, because these ones we're going to cover up. So what I do is I put it in the 4 millimeter, and what you have to do is you have to actually make sure you can see. I don't know if you guys can see as that corner enters, but if you don't put that corner, there it goes. Did you see where that paper went through? You have to make sure that corner is right there, or else it won't actually cut anything off and it'll cut it all crooked. So you can see it makes a great little, this one's already done. I did this one, let's make sure that corner's in there. There we go. You'll feel it when that corner, and you'll see that corner. There it is. Okay, so now we have some rounded edges on these pages. So our next steps are going to be to attach our pages of our mobile prayer list together. So depending on how many pages you want, my other one had 3 total pages. This one I'm going to make with 2, but the steps are going to be exactly the same. So what we want to do is determine what we want our book to look like and open up as. And I'm going to use this color washi tape, but the key to this is when you put your washi tape on, you want to make sure it is halfway, just about halfway, on one side of the page. And we're going to take it all the way down, and it's okay. You know, washi tape comes up if you mess up. So I'm going to take it all the way down, and I'm going to cut it off. You can use a credit card or something kind of thicker and just rip it off. So from there, we're going to stick our other page on. So what I want to do is when I put this other page on, I'm going to look at it from the back, because you don't want to butt that page up all the way. The key is if you have a little bit of room for each page, then if they're not butted up against each other, they will be able to flip and open up easily. If you butt them up against each other, it's going to be really tight and you won't be able to flip the pages of that book. That's what I have found. So let's say you wanted to add another page onto your mobile prayer list. You would just flip the page and then do the same process, half on this one and then attach this one. And again, don't butt that page up next to it. Leave a tiny little crack in the middle, and that gives it space. So after you've attached however many pages you want to do, I, just because it looks pretty, put washi tape here on the edge. And I'm going to use this really pretty glittery washi tape. We'll see how it works because it's kind of really thick. But it's going to be kind of like our spine for our mobile prayer list. And again, like do half of it. Just put half of that washi tape. Oops, it's probably easier to look at it from this side so that you can see, if that's difficult, you can see what half of it looks like. Okay, well now that I put it on crooked, let's just start over again. Okay, so I'm going to put it on half of that width. Okay, so from here, I'm going to straighten this out because it's bothering me here on the edge. And we'll take the other side, cut this off. Okay, and then flip it over onto the back of that, and now you have a spine for your mobile prayer list. Oh, I love this one. I love that sparkle washi. Okay, so that's a lot thicker, and it might not bend as well as the thin washi. No, it's not. That's super thick. But if I had put regular non-glitter washi, it probably would bend a little bit easier. I could probably untighten it a little bit and not put it so tight on there. And then it should be able to turn easier. Yeah, it does. It just needs a little bending. But if you were to put non-glitter, any other washi tape, it's going to flip really, really easily. And then that's where you have your mobile prayer list. Our next step is to determine what you want on these pages. Maybe you want to put a picture here of people using, like, I have an IV2 printer, a Canon printer, or maybe you want to use your prayer list like I did and just to say which sections of your mobile prayer list are going to be for those prayers. So let's say you want to start on this page. Let's just start on a blank page. Let's say I was going to do my spouse. So what I would do is I would take all of these. You know, I'm not going to start on the spouse because that's not a good example. I'm going to start on friends so that's easier to show you. We're going to start the waterfall effect. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you an example of how I would do this. So I would pick, let's say, Lisa. And let's say Lisa Smith. You don't even need a last name, however you want to list it. I would say Lisa, and then Lisa came to me on November 1st, 2015. And she wanted me to pray over her son is sick. They're waiting on test results. I'm completely making this up, but we've all been in this situation and we can think of situations. So her son is sick. She's waiting on test results. So for example, I'm going to be, if I were to link them to my categories, like my themes in my prayer Bible, I would one of my categories might be healing. Waiting on test results. One of them might be like patience. So you can list your themes there, or maybe you can just bullet point. You want to pray over wisdom for the doctors. You want to pray over healing, right, for her son. So you can list up whatever you want there. I like to have the situation there so I can remember specifically what to pray for. And then as you go, you'll do the same, date, details, or whatever you want to list here. But I put the date there so that way when these prayers are answered, they go into my pocket full of answered prayers in my prayer Bible, so I can remember to be thankful for the ones that God has answered. And in his time, of course, then I'll remember by date when I started praying for that. So I'll just put friend number 2. These are just examples and you can list all that. And so as people ask for prayer, you can just load up these waterfalls, and just all you'll see on these lists is their name at the bottom. So you could go in, open it up, and pray for what you need for each of those friends. And go as big as you want. Maybe you have smaller post-its and you want to do smaller post-its and maybe do 2 columns. So you can do that with each category of your prayer Bible. And what I did is at the top, you can either use your wet erase here and you can write friends. Maybe that's your category up here. And then just build your prayer list there. Oopsie, didn't mean to smear that. It was not dry yet, but once it's dry, it does not smear. It's not like a dry erase, it's a wet erase. And these are those vis-a-vis. Expo makes a bunch of wet erase. Erin Condren, they're all over. So I'll link some in the comments below so you can find some of those. But once it dries, let me see if it's dry yet. It's not dry yet, but it does take a little bit. I used it here on this one, so that's dry and it won't dry, or it won't wipe off like a dry erase. Okay, so you can build your categories on each of these pages, and then as you use this, maybe on Friday, it's Friend Friday, and you pray for your friends, and then you set up your ministries or your community here, and then you flip back and you have your work co-workers or your marriage and your spouse or yourself. So you can just flip through this mobile prayer list, and like I've done, I have my categories all set up. My book opens up and I just can pray over these categories, and you just flip through and pray for whoever needs prayer. So I hope that helps, guys. It's pretty simple, just some laminating. And what I'm going to do with this is, now that I have it, I have not put this in my Bible yet. I thought I did. But this pocket, let me just put it in now so that you can see it. Okay, so we talked about this prayer pocket, or this pocket, and I wanted to stick it right on the paper here in the Bible. Of course, did I do it straight? And the good thing about these ones is you can kind of unstick them. It'll be okay. And just get the bubbles out. And then what I want to do is, this will sit in here. It's got its own little home, and it won't fall out. So if I have other pockets in my other Bibles, I can just take it in and out of that pocket and move it around, or put this in my purse, or take it to go with me. So it's a great way to pray over people and have a mobile prayer list without having, 20 friends, different tabs, and all your coworkers as tabs. You can just pick the categories that you want to pray over these people. Hey guys, if you have stuck around this long in the tutorial, I appreciate you. If you have not liked or subscribed, I sure would appreciate the support of this channel. But if you're going to be using this, let me know in the comments. Are you going to be using it in a pocket in your prayer Bible and maybe moving it around between Bibles? Are you going to just be using this instead of taking your Bible with you each day, kind of in your purse, or keeping it in your car? Lots of great uses, and I would love to know how you're going to be using your mobile prayer list. With that, you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.